Welcome back. The Democratic Alliance has announced some changes to its parliamentary caucus. Natasha Mazzone is no longer the party's chief whip, and she's now being replaced by her deputy. Mazzone will now represent the party in the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. Noko Masipa will now take on the portfolio on agriculture, land reform and rural development, while Diane Barnard moves to communications. And these are just some of the changes announced during the DS Federal Executive meeting this morning. Let's get some reaction now. We've got Natasha Mazzone on the line just to give us a sense on the legacy she's left behind as chief whip and what's to come. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Natasha. First of all, let's address this idea that people have been throwing out all afternoon about you being demoted from being chief whip to the position that you have now been introduced to. What do you say to that statement?
Well, I mean, it's absolute lunacy. I've been asked to be the special security advisor to the leader of the official opposition, a position that's akin to, in any other country, it would be the Secretary of State. So it's a position of absolute trust that the leader has to have in a person, that shows that he believes that I have the goods to steer us through what we know are going to be very turbulent times as we lead up to the 2024 election. We know as a country, having gone through the entire Arthur Fraser scandal, the Pala scandal that we're going through now, the Section 194 committee that's sitting with all the information coming out about state security, that it's never been more relevant to have someone who really knows their stuff and who can be completely trusted by the party as well as the party leader. To advise him and the party on what steps we should be taking to ensure that our country remains a free and fair democracy, and how we can avoid and certainly steer our way through what are going to be incredibly turbulent times. So I'm deeply honored. It's a position that I didn't have to think twice about. It's completely up my alley. As you know, I was in charge of state capture for many years in the party. Before I took a break from that kind of role and became chief whip. I was chief whip, which I enjoyed thoroughly for 3 years. But it's time for me to go back to my roots, which are fighting corruption, exposing corruption at every possible turn, and making sure that I make, on behalf of the party, make very strategic decisions when it comes to advising my party on national security issues. So basically you're telling us that it was a strategic change just given the current times that we're living with in the country. You also say that you didn't even think twice about this decision because of the importance of the role that you'll be taking on. Does that mean you were having conversations with party structures ahead of the official announcement and really who was going to be doing what within the high ranks of the DA? Yes, we have been having conversations for some time now. Obviously, these aren't easy decisions to make, and especially for someone like me, national security is always something that requires you to have quite a steel rod down your spine, because you are dealing with some very nasty people at times. Security becomes a big question. We all know that when I was fighting state capture, I went through a period where my security and the security of those dealing with state capture all came into question. So, of course, the leader approached me and said that this is where he foresaw me going, and would I be interested and would I be willing to take on the task? And it was something I had to discuss very closely, both with my husband, with my family, and I had to make the decision myself. But I've always been of the idea that I follow the line of Helen Suzman, which is first principle. And my first principle is that I took an oath to serve South Africans, and I do believe that South Africa is now in a situation where it is obvious that our safety and our security and, most importantly, our intelligence is at risk. We're seeing it every day with new revelations coming out about exactly what's been happening in our state security departments. And if my party requires my expertise in that particular area and requires a backbone of steel, they certainly have it in me. I'm not called the Rofhiwa for nothing. And I was able to discuss the issues of safety and security with my family. And I believe that it is my duty as a South African to put fears that I have aside and put my country first. And this is the way I see best to serve my country and certainly see best to serve my party.
Mm-hmm. Natasha, your previous role wasn't a small one either. Being the chief whip was a big task as well. What would you say is the legacy that you left behind, and are you confident that it's something that the new chief whip can take forward?
Well, let me first say that I cannot sing the praises of Rofhiwa Madzena loud enough. I'm her biggest cheerleader, I always have been. I think she is a remarkable woman. And having worked with her as my deputy chief whip for almost a year, we have such a wonderful relationship that I think of her more as a sister than as a colleague, which I think I'm very lucky to have had a relationship like that in politics, because as you know, in politics, they say if you want a friend, get a dog. But I was lucky enough to gain a sister, in my opinion. I have no doubt that she's going to be a wonderful chief whip. And yes, it is an important position. I think the legacy that I leave behind is one of trying to approach things from a more cooperative position. I tried to the best of my ability to reach consensus on issues instead of constantly battling in the Houses of Parliament when we were in sitting. I also come from, I leave the legacy of having led my caucus through the COVID period, which I'm very proud of having run what we called the COVID Council within the Democratic Alliance, which was an unprecedented time to lead a caucus through a national pandemic. And I think I did so with an element of compassion and understanding. And I think that Rofhiwa is going to do very well in carrying on with that kind of legacy. In the fact that we both agree that South Africa must always come first. And it's not always who wins the argument, but that South Africa wins the argument. And that's the legacy I would like to think I'm leaving behind. And I will always be on call for Rofhiwa 24/7 if she ever requires my help or my assistance. But she is more than capable of taking over straight away, and I look very forward to serving in a caucus where she leads us in Parliament, and I look very forward to being an advisor to the leader in this exceptional role.
Thank you very much, Natasha Mazzone there, breaking it down for us, moving from being chief whip to the new role that she will be taking on, and obviously there offering her support to the new chief whip will be taking on that role within Parliament. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.